G'day, Tragic here, and it is now time for, let's zoom out a little bit. Humanity's Shadow, baby. Look at this. Netrunner. Now this is a fantastic game. There's been a lot of buzz about Android Netrunner, and people go on about, whatever it's called, LCGs, they're all overrated. There's a lot of people get a lot of LCGs get a lot of flack, right? But if there's one of them that just doesn't deserve any hassling, it's this one. This is really as good as people say. There's actually a famous, well, I guess it's not really famous, but there is a Dice Tower episode recently where Tom Vassell even gave it his seal of approval after bagging it out for ages and ages. This is just a little story. Basically, he goes, I finally got around to playing it, and it's actually really good. And it's just true. It's just one of those games. I mean, it does have some problems. There are some things that people complain about. Not so much the fans, but people who are not dedicated to the game. I hesitate to use the word fanboys, but this game does have fanboys. Like you say anything bad about the game and you're yelled at. But there's a random element to this game that a lot of people don't like. You can just, a couple of lucky runs at R&D and the corporation can lose. Just things like that can be very frustrating. And also, the only problem that I personally have with it, the only one I have, is that the games can be quite long. If you have a really good player versus a really good player and they're playing cautiously and playing around traps and it's all fake and counter fake and stuff, you can, a game can run easily 45 minutes. Easily. So a match, which is 2 games, can be like an hour and a half. When Call of Cthulhu or Star Wars, you can punch out a match in like 15 to 20 minutes, So anyway, let's get into this. We'll start with good old, let me zoom in a bit, Surge. Okay, so this is a runner card. It's an event. Play only if you place at least 1 virus counter on a program this turn. Place 2 virus counters on that program. So this is just a way to speed up virus decks, as if the virus decks needed more help. I'm not really sure why you'd never not play this card. It's pretty beefy. We're just talking about that problem where you have a hole in your defense and you just get in there. Okay, so imagine this situation. This costs 0. Okay, he has an undefended R&D for some reason. Some crazy version of some crazy player does not have an R&D defended because of maybe he's got to protect his hand because there's lots of stuff in his hand, who knows. But anyway, we play out medium, okay? We run at R&D. Medium gets a virus counter. We then cast Surge as an event, okay, for our next click. It gets another 2 virus counters. It now has 3 virus counters. We do another run at R&D, and this time we're scouring for 3 cards, okay? No, 4 cards. Beg your pardon, I can't even count. So now we're scouring for 4 cards, right? Well, no, 5 cards. Holy gee. Yeah, because okay, so he gets a virus counter. I can't even do my maths right. This is one of the reasons I suck at this game. I can never add up all the costs. So we click, right? We go into attack. It's already got 3 virus counters on it. We get a successful run, which adds a 4th virus counter on it. And then we get to scour the deck for 4 cards, plus the one we do with our run. So that's 5 cards. Might be 4, might be 5. I'd have to look up the rules. Like I said, I'm not a huge expert on this game, but the point is a ton of cards, and you've still got another 2 clicks that run, and you get an extra card each run. So this card could win you the game on turn 1. You have this in your hand, and you have medium in your hand, which you can cast with the initial 5 credits. You could win the game on your first turn if you can get into his R&D. Very, very powerful card. That is full on. Okay, Xanadu. Nice. Okay, the res cost of all ice is increased by 1. This is an interesting card. Credit generation is a huge thing in this game, and basically you're leeching credits off the corporation. The credits the corporation cannot afford to spend. So while this card is the kind of card that if the longer the game goes, the better it's going to be. It's going to be very, very powerful in the early game. Those initial credits that they're going to use to block their servers, the cheap ice that you res at the beginning of the game, That's going to cost more, which is going to slow down fast advance, it's going to slow down trap advance, it's going to really fiddle with them because they're not going to have the same kind of credit bases left. So you want to cast this early. It's a good card, I like it, but I think this is the kind of card that I like, but I might cut it out during my deck creation process when I'm just trying to find a room for everything. This is the kind of card where I look at it and I go, well, I like this effect, it does some good things for me, but am I really going to care about this late game when he's got his stuff out, you know? Maybe there's a better option for me. So, still, it's a pretty nice card. Now the fun one, woo! Damn straight, Andromeda. I love this card. I love the art on this card. Now, this game is cyberpunk, in inverted commas, or so it claims to be, and to that end, the runners have all been pretty cliche, in my opinion. Okay, I mean, we had to have Noise because he was in Android the Game, for example, and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, the punk chick with the little dinosaur doll, or the fat computer game nerd with the wizard. But here is a runner that is not a cliche punk, in inverted commas. I just love the fact that they've gone with a woman in an elegant dress. You know, I just think it's a really cool idea that they're just to expand what a runner is a little bit, you know? Awesome. And now let's look at her ability. You draw a starting hand of 9 cards. Now that is bonkers. That is so good. It's just unbelievable. I can't believe people don't love this card. It doesn't get a lot of love. But let's think about what this is. One, you're drawing 9 cards at your start. When you mulligan, you draw another 9 cards. So right off the bat, we have an 18 card mulligan. 18 cards. That's like you know, that's like 2/3 of your deck. If you can't get if you can't get your key cards in your hand with an 18 card mulligan, there is something wrong with how you designed your deck, seriously. That is incredibly powerful. But there's also other things it can do. I mean, one, she's got a link, okay, which is always good. But what you have to think about is, like, take that other card. Like, deck reduction is becoming a thing in this game. We know that there's a smaller NBN deck about to come out in the next pack or the next box or something. I read a spoiler for it. And Chaos Theory is already out. So let's look at Chaos Theory. Chaos Theory allows you to build a 40 card deck. It's got the same influence. It's like this. It's got 45, 15, okay? But Chaos is 40. So you can build a much smaller deck, right? But with a 9 card mulligan, right, you are actually playing with a 40 card deck, okay? So it's almost the same effect, except it has that hugely powerful 18 card mulligan at the beginning. Seriously, she is a beast. And she's criminal, which means, you know, they've got the credit gen craziness going on. She's powerful. I love this card, and I will be making a deck with her as soon as I'm finished doing this video. In fact, I want to stop doing this video right now so I can make it, damn it. Okay, so we have networking. Remove 1 tag. You may pay 1 credit to add networking to your grip instead of trashing it. Okay, so this is a card that seems pretty good at first glance. But when we actually think about it, what does it do? I mean, what does this card really do for us? 1, it takes up a slot in your deck, okay? You draw this into your hand, and then it's got to sit in your hand. And remember, you know, hand size is at a premium in this game, you know, because you've got to, you know, use clicks to draw as a runner, which means that drawing a card is not some kind of, yeah, I'll just draw a card. You know, you've got to decide to draw a card, and you have to sacrifice other actions to do it. So when you draw a card, you want that card to be active every time. And this isn't going to be. It's situational. It's going to sit in your hand and do jack. Okay? Now you pay a credit to put it back in your hand, which means it's 1 credit cheaper than a normal tag removal. Okay? Well, I guess it's, yeah, it's 1 credit cheaper. So a normal tag removal costs a click and 2 credits. This one will cost a click and 1 credit. But it takes up room in your hand. You have a dead draw possibly. And you can remove a single credit for 1 extra, you know, 1 extra credit. You can remove a click anyway, and it's not, you know, if this card didn't require a click, it would be awesome. But the way I'm looking at it is, this card is it just takes up room in my deck for stuff that I would rather be drawing. You know, if I really need to remove a tag, I'll just pay the extra credit, and for that credit, I'm getting an extra card that's useful in my deck. All in all, yeah, not interested in this one. Pass. Ooh, what is this one? HQ interface. It's a hardware, nice. Whenever you access cards from HQ, access 1 additional card. Ah, this is interesting. And it is a 2 to splash. See, that's these little dots down the bottom, right? It costs 2 influence. So if we look at Andromeda face. She has 15 influence, right? So she can have 15, this is a criminal, so she doesn't actually need to do with this, but 15 of these little dots, right, can be used in a deck of out-of-faction cards. Anyway, so this is basically like, what's it called? Not Imp. What, there's Imp, Medium, Vamp, is it Vamp? I can't remember, but no, Vamp is a credit drain. I can't remember. There's something like Medium, which is a virus card where it gets counters, and every time it gets a counter you can scry more cards from the hand. This is basically the same thing, is that you don't have to fiddle around with viruses, but the problem is it never gets any lower, okay? Never gets any higher, and they can't wipe it out with a virus cleaner. It's a pretty good card. I mean, I like this card. It's fairly expensive at 4 credits for what it does. But this is really going to make them a little more paranoid about holding things in their hands. And remember, if you're playing Criminal, you've got to worry about sneak, backdoor access, or whatever the hell it's called, that, you know, you're attacking the archives and go to HQ. You know, you've got to worry about Gabriel always genning credits on every kind of run into the home servers. So this is just basically going to increase that threat to the HQ and the home servers. I do like this card. I especially like the graphic on it, but again, this is not a card that I feel really adds much to the, you know, the rig of the runner. You know, if I was going to run a card like this, if I had the choice, I would probably splash in that. I'll try and find a copy of a card to stick in the video, but I'll probably splash in that other medium type card that allows you to scry the HQ. Of course that would require a splash. This might not require a splash. All in all, interesting card. Doesn't really wow me. What else have we got in here? Pheromones, hey? Wow, look at that art. The art in this game is pretty damn good, isn't it? Sweet! Okay, X recurring. Use these credits during a runs on HQ. X is the number of virus counters on pheromones. Whenever you make a successful run on HQ, place 1 virus counter on pheromones. Okay, so again, this isn't a card that I particularly am interested in. You know, it takes up a memory slot and it gives you recurring credits. I mean, credits are great. Everyone loves credits, but really, HQ is, I mean, you want to be able to run HQ if you have the chance, you know, and there's lots of reasons to run HQ, but really, you're going to be winning your agendas out of R&D and out of remote servers. HQ isn't the place you want to always be attacking. Half the time you'll be attacking HQ and there'll be nothing in there at all, you know. It's an interesting card. Taking up the 1 memory is obviously annoying. It's a program, so it can be destroyed with trash. All in all, again, I'm not hugely impressed with this card. You know, there's not been a lot in this deck pack so far that has really wowed me besides Andromeda. What's this one? Quality time event. Draw 5 cards. 3 costs. Okay. This wows me. This is like Diesel but on crack. Wow. 5 cards, thank you very much. As I said before, one of the big problems with the runner is that you are pulling cards at a click cost. It's costing you time, it's costing you actions to draw cards. And this one, you can just bam, fill up your hand. You know, it's very, very good versus you know, destruction decks, you know, net damage or meat damage decks or whatever they're called. But yeah, 5 card draw. Costs 3, which is, you know, Diesel costs 0. Is Diesel better than this card? I think so. I think so. I mean, you are using. I mean, I think this card is better, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I think Diesel is a very good card. I mean, I love Diesel. I use Diesel on a few of my decks, and I am never sorry to see it drawn. Every time I draw it, I go, excellent, Diesel's drawn, and I cast it, or I cast it the next turn or something. But this card is basically the same. It does have a credit cost. But because you're drawing so many more cards, the chances of digging up what you're looking for is just higher. So it's more valuable. It's a higher value result for your credits. And yeah, I would probably replace Diesel or run this and Diesel, depending on the deck type. Interesting. Very good card. That's a must use. Awesome. Okay, what else have we got? Replicator. Okay. Whenever you install a piece of hardware, including Replicator, you may search your stack for another copy of that hardware, reveal it and add it to your grip, shuffle your stack. Okay, so this is obviously a very, very good card. Now, it only works on hardware, which is worth taking note of, but it does a couple of things. One, it thins your deck. And we're only talking about 40 to 45 card decks regardless anyway, so I mean, thinning your deck is a huge deal. Like I said, this game is really about getting value for runners anyway, getting value from your draws. Like, your draws matter, okay? So thinning your deck leaving a higher concentration of value cards in your deck, and it's nothing but win. Nothing but win. Okay, so let's just think about the power of this card. You know, we can just do so much with it. You know, I think what jumps onto my head, straight onto the top of my head, would be using this in conjunction with that hardware mod that gives you a link and a memory chip. I can't remember what it's called. It's a neutral card. I think it's a neutral card. I'm sorry, I do play this game quite a lot, but I don't play it enough to have every card memorized like some of the other ones I play. But yeah, because basically play this, you just put down the other one, next couple of turns, put in those employees that gives you credits based on your link, and suddenly you've got a thinner deck, you've got a credit gen system, and you know, it's just all good. It's all good. I think this is an extremely powerful card, and a card that we are going to be seeing for a long time, because it doesn't matter how much power creep gets out of control in this game. I mean, they could just go nuts with power creep, even though they seem pretty on the ball in this one, but they could go nuts with power creep. But it doesn't matter. This keys off hardware. So this will always be useful for putting out your best hardware. It's always going to be a good card forever. Awesome card. The kind of card that collectors love. You know, because collectors like me, I collect a lot of card games, and a lot of games end up in that position where only the new cards matter, you know? But this is a card that's going to always be good, and it does have sort of weird, sexy blonde on the cover, so that's always good as well. What else we got? Mwah! Creeper. Okay, so this is another what is it? An icebreaker? Yeah. Killer Cloud. It's a new keyword. Have I seen Cloud before? I don't think I have. If you have at least 2 link, the memory cost of Creeper is 0, even if it's not installed. Well, there you go. So again, Replicator could completely be awesome for this card. You know, get out your mem chips, put out Creeper, and then cast Creeper for 0. Now, it's got a 2 strength, but it's got a +1 to strength, but it's got a +2 to break Sentry subroutine. Now, the +2 is not that great, okay? I mean, 2 credits to break a single routine. This is alright for a lot of ice, but there is more and more ice in the corporation's arsenal that adds extra subroutines. Things like Wood Chopper, for example, is an example, and there's you know, not Chum or Churn. It's like Chum, but it's like a Jinteki card, and it adds an end of run subroutine to the card behind it. The point is, 2 credits per subroutine is fine if there's only 1 subroutine, but if it's got 4 subroutines, then suddenly it's really, really expensive. Still, 0 cost to put out, and you know, it's 0 cost to put out. Let's just think about that. 0 cost if you've got 2 link. Not hard to get 2 links, especially with a Replicator. And then suddenly you have an actual disposable program, a program that you can play for 0 cost. You go, boom, I play, I do my runs, next turn, or even at the end of the turn, I could play a different program and just trash this, knowing I'll pull another one out of my deck and I won't care, because I can just play it instantly for free. Very good card. I like this card. It's the kind of card that I would definitely experiment with, but I'm not a huge on 2 cost Sentry breaks. Ooh, what is this? The Kraken! Oh, it's a neutral event. Play only if you stole an agenda this turn. Choose a server. The corp trashes 1 piece of ice protecting that server. Oh, well, I mean, there is no reason for you not to play Kraken. If you're not playing Kraken, you're doing something wrong. I mean, trashing one of their hard ice, especially if it's something really bonkers like an Archer or something, there's just no way you will ever not want this in your deck. I mean, did I read that right? It seems so good. Pay only if you stole an agenda this turn. Choose a server. The corp trashes 1 piece of ice protecting that server. It doesn't even need to be rezzed ice. That's how good this is. Of course, it is one of those I'm going to destroy their worst guy cards, which isn't as good as a targeted effect, but it's still, you know, you could really do some damage, you know, just lower the cost of your runs. All in all, I like this card a lot. What else have we got here? Katie Jones. You cannot use Katie Jones more than once a turn. Credits. Put 3 credits on her, take all credits from her. Okay. Now this is a really interesting card. Is she good or is she not? More importantly, is she a replacement for Magnus Opus, which is, you know, a really good credit gen for a runner? Well, obviously she's neutral, so she's awesome in that regard. She can be splashed into anything. But, you know, 1 credit for... It takes 2 clicks to earn 3 credits, right? That sounds pretty bad, considering it's 1 click for 2 credits with Magna Opus. But what you're not considering is how this card can be used. You don't have to take the credits from. No, you don't. That's what I'm trying to say. You do not need to take the credits from. You can just, you know, tap her once a turn until she's got like 12 credits on her. The more credits she has on her when you activate her take all credits from her, the better. You know, if you're playing like, say you're playing Wayland Ice Advance, right? Now Wayland Ice Advance is a turtling deck, a deck that's designed to sit back and build humongous servers. Yeah, well guess what? I'm just gonna keep tapping this. I'm not going to do any runs. I'm just going to sit and build up my arsenal, and then I'm going to do a run with like, you know, 80 credits to my name and all my icebreakers out. What are you going to do, Corporation? Yeah, I mean, she's a really good card, and I think she's really overlooked because people misunderstand how to use her. I think she's really, really good. I mean, obviously she works better in some decks than others, but I think, I mean, she can. If you're playing a deck, if you're playing against a runner and you're wondering why he has like, you know, 40 credits, he's probably playing Katie Jones. Okay, so we're on to the Has Bioroid ad campaigns again. It's got another droid on the market, it looks. Place 16 on it when there's no credits, blah, blah. When your turn begins, take 2. Okay, so this is a good one. Finally we get a female instead of the Adonis campaign. I don't know, she's a good model, I guess. I do like 5 cost is a good cost for a trash cost for one of these asset cards. That means that you can quite safely play this in a server and leave it unprotected, because if they flip it over, you know that they are going to have to trash it for 5. Okay. Now, at 5 credits to res though, it's going to take 5 turns before, it's going to be not until the 3rd turn that it's going to pay for itself, okay? So, you know, you're really looking at 11 credits off this. You know, is that good? Is that bad? It's really how, we haven't really got to the point yet where the credit gen is really working for corporations, and I think especially for Jinteki has a hard time. But what's probably going to happen is that we'll have enough credit gens that the best credit gens might be in other factions, but every faction is going to have their own decent credit gen. So this is a nice little Has Bioroid credit gen. You know, we might use something else, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of something good to say about this card, but I just can't. You know, I mean, it's a credit gen card. It costs 5 for them to trash. Still, the 5 to res, that's pretty heavy. See, this, I would prefer, there's a 5 to res, 5 to trash NBN card, which requires a click to put credits on it, kind of like Katie Jones. And I would prefer her to this card, because for those 5 credits to res, you have a lot more life. The card will have a longer time on the table. Still, it's interesting. Ooh, what's this one? Rework. Shuffle 1 card from HQ into R&D. Okay, this is an interesting card. Like any corporation, I've had the problem where I've had an agenda in my hand that I cannot protect, and I'm just hoping to the card gods that, you know, they're not going to run. That's all you can hope for, is that they're not going to run your HQ and get it, and if they do run your HQ, that they don't pick the right card. So in that situation, this card is exactly what everyone's been looking for. Oh, if only I had a way to get rid of the card from my HQ. Well, now you do. But think about it. It's taking up a slot in your hand, and we've already talked about how important card slots are. So it's taking up a slot in your hand, right? It's using a click, and it is also being a bad draw. It's situational. You know, I would probably not run this card. This is the kind of card that I wouldn't really run, I don't think. It sounds good in theory, but when I think about the taking up the slot and taking up a card draw, I just think I would rather draw something else. I would rather draw a good piece of ice and put the agenda on the table than shuffle it into my... what if I shuffle it and the next card I draw is an agenda and then nothing's changed? You know, I've just wasted a card draw. Yeah, it's an interesting idea for a card. It's kind of like what we always ask for, but, you know, sometimes you get what you ask for and it's shit. Okay, Whirlpool. The runner cannot jack out for the remainder of his run. Trash Whirlpool. Ha, nice. Okay, so this is a trap ice, okay? So let's just have a quick look at this here. If I can get this to focus properly. Ice trap. Doesn't say sentry. Doesn't say code gate. Does not say barrier. It says trap. Have we got anything to beat traps? I don't think so. Which means that they cannot break this subroutine. So the 1 strength, it doesn't mean anything, okay? At the moment, as far as I know, we can't break... they could bypass it with, I think it's, I can't remember the name of the card. There's a card in Criminal that allows you to bypass the first ice. I think it's Criminal. So, that would be pretty cool. You could bypass it. But this is a really good way to lock them into an incredibly damaging run. I mean, if you put this in the right server, if this has got the right kind of ice, you could win the game off this card. This is a flatline win condition. Perfect for Jinteki, perfect for NBN to force tags. I mean, you put this card in front of a server that's got like two data ravens, I think it's called. The data ravens, the one that gives you a tag every time you encounter them. I mean, well, it gives them a power counter that you can discard for a tag in your own turn even. I mean, so NBN, Jinteki, awesome card. Whirlpool, I love it. I love it! The only problem, of course, with Whirlpool is that it needs to be on the outermost piece of ice. Now, Jinteki does have an ice shuffler. I forget what it's called, but it allows you to rearrange the ice in the server. So either way, it's good. Oh, what is this, baby? Hokusai Grid. Whenever there is a successful run on this server, do 1 net damage. Limit 1 region per server. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, this is an interesting card. I mean, cost 2 if they trash it, which they're probably going to want to do. It's going to cost them 4 to trash. Well, let's actually think about this. I mean, what have we got here? Is it Fetal AI does 2 net damage when you pick it up. You get a net damage from this card, then you get a net damage from Jinteki ID. That's like 4 net damage off 1 server run. Yeah, pretty good. Plus it uses 2 credits or something. All in all, well, you know, that's a pretty good combo, to be honest. And, well, I don't know. This is a card that when I first saw it 5 seconds ago, I thought, meh. But now I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, you know, it's not actually that bad. It's actually pretty good. I would probably use this. And I think what's important, especially for Jinteki, is that you can play upgrades in servers before they have any cards in. So I could play this down like this, book, and have them think it's a server, okay? And have them run it at blind, possibly. If you are running and playing against a Jinteki, don't ever run at a server unless it's got a power counter on it. You know, I mean, obviously it can be a June bug or a secretary or whatever, but seriously, you don't want to run into an end of the earth, okay? Especially with this baby running on it. And, you know, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I like this card. I do like this card, I've decided. It has my official stamp of awesomeness. Okay, what do we got here? Data Hound. Trace 2. If successful, look at the number of cards on the top of the runner's stack equal to the amount which your strength exceeded. Trace one of those cards. Okay. Interesting card. 1, you get to see what's coming up, always important. 2, you get to trash even non-trashable cards, and 3, you get to rearrange in any other order, possibly giving them dead draws for the next whatever, how long. Bad side, you've got to win the trace, and as much as tracing is all awesome, and yeah, oh, we've really beefed up trace in this expansion, no. Runner economy is bollocks more powerful. It is way more powerful than the corporations. I don't care what anyone says. Corporations should not have more money than most runners in most situations. I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, you know, Whale and Ice Advance, for example, can get huge amounts of money. But seriously, tracing is hard. Tracing is really hard, you know? I mean, we've got so many plus link cards now. We've got things like Replicator. We've got things like Rabbit Hole, where you can just go boom. I've got like 5 trace on. I've got 5 link on my run in it. Okay, which means that you'd have to spend like, you know, 3 credits on this just to get it to his link value, and then you've got to spend more. So, you know, I'm just not convinced about trace effects, unfortunately, which is a pity because NBN's one of my favourite factions. But yeah, not too impressed with this card. It has a really nice effect if you can pull off the trace. Okay. Bernice Meyer. Whenever you make a successful run on this server, trace 5. See, that is more the kind of trace number you want. If successful, give the runner 1 tag. If unsuccessful, trash Bernice. Okay, so this is pretty cool. It's an upgrade, so again, it can be played in the server face down, regardless of whether there's something in the server or not. So you don't even need to, you can fake them into attacking a server, even if you don't have anything in it to risk. And, I mean, let's look at this. 3 to trash, okay, so you're probably going to get it cut off anyway. It is unique, by the way. But trace 5, I mean, that is a good trace value. That's the kind of trace value you're likely to keep. Now, remember, she's 0 to res, okay? How much would you like to pump this? I mean, you probably could use the 2 recurring credits. So you're looking at 7, trace 7. With this card in most cases. Most people will probably be running there is a new NBN coming. I don't know how good it's going to be. As far as I know, it has a lower, it has lower card count, so it's like a 40 cards and a lower influence count. So I don't know if I'll be trading 2 recurring tracing credits for that, but oh well. Anyway, so whatever. So we've got 7 trace, say. I mean, that's a pretty decent trace. But if we trace too high, it becomes counter useful, okay? Because we need that. The runner needs to. Well, if you're playing NBN, right? The runner needs to trace. It needs to leave enough credits left over to break the trace, okay? So if you trace way too high, the runner's just going, well, it's actually cheaper for me just to take the trace and then destroy it, you know? Costs 3. So we're looking at, if the runner has 5 credits on him, I would say, and if the runner has 5 credits in a click, I would say they will never bother even attempting to avoid this trace. They'll take the credits, they'll take the trace, they'll destroy the card for 3 credits, and then they'll break the trace for 2 credits in a click. That would be the way to play around this card. And it basically doesn't make him useless. It doesn't make her useless, but it doesn't make her very good, in my opinion. This is the kind of card that it's not going to really change much, unless they're stupid enough to be running on their last click. Runners, never run in your last click, not unless you're absolutely certain you'll get in. Okay, next, Salvage. Salvage can be advanced only while rezzed and gains Trace 2. If successful, give the runner 1 tag for each advancement token on it. Okay, so here's another example of a card that lets you add, whatever they're called, subroutines. Okay, so you're adding more and more subroutines, which means that icebreakers that trigger off, you know, they have cheap to raise the cost, but, you know, expensive to break routines, like a 2 credit break or a 3 credit break, some of them even have. So this can really bust up those kind of economies. Now, it's only 1 to get through, but that's the point is, doesn't matter. The idea is that, yes, they can get into it, they can run their thing, but you can put, like, you know, 50 frickin' things on here, you know, well, not, you know, whatever, but you know what I'm saying, you can get a lot in here. I mean, Wayland Ice Advance is pretty strong in my opinion. One of my favourite decks is a Wayland Ice Advance, even though I have been absolutely crushed with it the last 2 times I played, but still, I still really like the idea of advancing ice. And, I mean, this does have a trace, was it trace 3 or trace 2? It's trace 2. It's got a trace 2 effect, which is good, which means there's a very high possibility that we can get a trace happening, especially if there's like 5 of these suckers on it. You know, get 5 or 6 of these on it, you could do some pretty heavy tracing. I mean, you know, he comes out of here with like 5 tags on him. I mean, that is a big deal. That's actually a huge deal. Yeah, not bad, not bad. I'm definitely going to put this in my Ice Advance deck. I'm definitely going to try and make this the target of my Advance, because what I like to do is I like to keep the ice down and I pile it up with counters. Just pile it up with counters. And then I run commercialization, which gives me a credit for every counter. That's one way that Wayland Ice can generate tons of resources. But then we can flip this over and, oh wait, it's got 13 of these of these traces on it. You don't have to pump any of them, you know? Or maybe just pump the last one, but you know, I think it's pretty awesome. And I like this card a lot. Salvage, awesome. Awesome. Salvage is awesome. What's next? Another unique upgrade. Wow. Got tons of unique upgrades and resources in this. 2 recurring credits. Use these credits to advance cards in or protecting this server. Okay. What is that? Oh yeah. It's awesome. Now, this is interesting. Okay. People might be confused by this. It costs a credit and a click to advance. Okay. So this is going to be basically like the Wayland Advance ID. These 2 credits don't allow you to bypass the click cost of advancing, okay? So it's still going to cost you 2 clicks to advance 2 ice, but it's not going to cost you any credits. All in all, very, very good. I like this card. I would probably run it. I find that you can usually have one server that's very hard to get through. Yeah, I do like this card. I think it's a good card, but at the same time, my strategy for Wayland Ice Advance really needs some work, because I found that some of the turtling mechanics that worked really good a couple of packs ago, cards like Katie Jones, you know, and they just completely crush turtle decks, because the longer you do nothing, they just sit there getting credits on Katie, and then boom, they just pull like 20 credits off it in one turn. Okay, so what's we got now? Firefox. Oh, look at this. It's a Firefox. How cute. I use Firefox browser. Trace 7. If successful, trash 1 virtual resource or 1 link. Okay, so what is a virtual resource? That's what I want to know. I have no idea, to be honest. Are any of these things virtual? That's a resource. Connection, events, programs. I don't think there are any virtual. I don't know what a virtual resource is. Oh, here, a virtual resource. Xanadu's a virtual resource. Okay, so yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what that is. I'll have to. I'm going to have to look up the card game database and find out what kind of targets we have here. What is interesting is, though, that it can trash one link. If successful, trash one virtual resource or one link. That's really interesting. So you can trash a link without actually trashing the card that's associated with it. This could become quite good. Get a couple of these heading off. I mean, Trace 7 is pretty strong. You're running NBN, you know, that's Trace 9 right off the bat. Not bad. Unlike a lot of these Trace events cards, you do not need them to have a successful run. You can just boom, do it, okay? Doesn't tag them. It takes off a link. Trashes a virtual resource. I mean, I don't know how good that's going to be until I check out what targets there are, but if there are good enough virtual resource targets, then obviously that's going to be good as well. So this is an interesting card. I like what it's doing. I like the fact that it's got a very, very high trace of 7, and I do like the fact that it actually feeds more tracing. If you've got a trace-orientated deck, this is a card for it. Not only will it have a high chance of exceeding in a trace, which is what those decks are trying to do. I mean, you've probably got cards that have recurring credits for tracing if you're playing NBN especially, and this will allow you to lower the link, making all the other traces for the whole of that game that much more powerful. So yeah, I do like this card. That's it. That's it. Netrunner, Humanity's Shadow. That's Xanadu, baby. Okay, so let's find my favorites. Okay, so my favorite corporation card of the pack is Whirlpool. Now this is, a lot of people are not going to agree with me here, but just from reading, you know, through the pack just then, I've decided that this is the one that I can see having the most game-changing effect for the corporation. You draw this card, you are guaranteeing that they're going to run into some of your ice. Okay, now I love the way it cannot be bypassed. You put this in the second piece of ice on the server and they're not going to be able to, or put this in the first piece of ice on the server, they can't get away from it unless I've got that bypassing ice. You know, this is a good card. I mean, like I said, you could win the game off this card. And I think that's really, really cool. Best runner card, I'm going with whatever it's called, Quality Time. Drawing 5 cards with 3, I love that. I just think that this is the kind of card that's gonna get you out of holes. You know, when you're in Netrunner and you're thinking, oh man, if only I had this card, I need this card to get past this, you know, I'm just wasting time trying to pull this card out. I'm using all these clicks, where's my money go, blah, 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 blah. What? Don't worry about it. Quality Time, boom, you got it. Awesome card. And it was a real toss-up between Quality Time and Katie Jones for me. Like, I do think Katie Jones is bollocks out of control powerful, but I think Quality Time is more universal. Quality Time will run in more decks. Katie Jones works best against certain corporation decks, as well as being, it's, you know, you need a deck design to use it. So, but this will just slot into any deck. Any deck that's got the resources to take one influence card, boom, put this card in it, it's going to do nothing but good things for you. And favorite art is going to Andromeda herself. I sort of talked about this at the beginning. I just love what they've done with this idea of this runner, just getting away from the cliches, getting away from the punk, getting away from the, you know, homemade computers all made out of scrap. You know, this is like a successful, criminal, elegant, you know, ass kicker. I just love that. I think she's so, it's such a good drawing. She looks great. The theme of her is great. It's just, everything about this drawing is a step in the right direction for me. Not that I don't like all the cyberpunk stuff. I'm just saying it's really cool to see that they're thinking outside the box already. We're only on, I think this is the fifth pack of the first cycle, and they're already starting to, you know, shake off a few of those cliche molds that the game is already known for. And this art is an example of that, and it's awesome. Okay, so that is Humanity's Shadow. Sweet! I will see you guys next time.